Hello, my name is Laura Tenney, and I wanted to discuss my RTI proposal for Springport Public Schools. You may be wondering, what is response to intervention? According to the article Just-in-Time Pedagogy, Teachers' Perspective on the Response to Intervention Framework, RTI is defined as a comprehensive, systematic approach to teaching and learning designated to address language and literacy problems for all students through increasingly differentiated and intensified language and literacy assessment and instruction. The article goes on to explain that RTI involves a multi-tiered approach to the implementation of instructional modifications for struggling learners, and the level of intervention in those models typically vary in terms of intensity, duration, evasiveness, and gatekeeping procedures. Most students are broken into three tiers. Tier 1 provides intensive instruction, Tier 2 provides targeted instruction, and Tier 3 offers instruction in the core program. So, students are broken into tiers based on their achievement on pretests. For Springport Public Schools, our current practices include we offer a response to intervention for math for grades kindergarten through 5th grade. It is our second year of implementing RTI. Springport does not offer RTI for literacy. However, we do have literacy groups with highly qualified staff for low-achieving students. Currently, RTI teachers test students on the provided math curriculum, math expressions. They have assessments for pre-tests that the students take. RTI teachers meet every 2 to 3 weeks, and RTI occurs 4 days a week for 25 minutes at the end of the day. They also look through low, medium, and high scores on the pre-tests and then move students into groups based on that information. They don't always move kids into lower tiers, even if the student begins to show higher achieving scores. For my recommendations for practice, currently the RTI teaching staff meets every 2 to 3 weeks. RTI staff should be meeting weekly in order to discuss data, goals for RTI, and to make sure they are ensuring that students are in their correct tiers. Because RTI teaching staff have not been meeting, they have not been able to have adequate time to discuss their strategies and the students who may need to change tiers. My recommendation is that RTI staff have weekly meetings. I feel that each member should have a job that relates to the meeting and then could switch each meeting when they have it. Those jobs could include a note taker, a data analyzer, a facilitator for the meeting, and then a reviewer for the end of the meeting. I wanted to do this because so far, when they do meet, it's been very piecemeal and not very structured. By allowing each member to have a job, that increases engagement and kind of gives structure to the meeting. During the meeting, I also want to encourage them to create norms. So the facilitator will be able to remind staff of the norms if things do get a little bit heated or out of hand. Again, the importance of doing meeting frequently is because it will allow teachers to discuss data and student achievement and will really increase their effectiveness at their job. The next recommendation I have is regarding scheduling. Currently, RTI occurs at 2:15 Monday through Thursday. So that is our RTI times at the end of the day. Our reading recovery teacher, Denise Tomasello, explained to me that this time frame is difficult for teachers because they are beginning to think about getting the kids on the bus and the kids are thinking about going home. The time is not always effective due to those distractions. And some of the students are coming back from outside recess and take longer to take off their coats and hats, which cut into RTI time. So my recommendation is that RTI begin earlier in the day to decrease the end of the day distractions. I also believe that scheduling some extra help, such as parents, librarians, high school students, could help with lower achieving students, and then it could also help the students who are getting back from recess, if that is the case, to quickly move from getting their boots and hats off to starting to learn. Extra hands are always helpful. And again, why earlier RTI time would prevent distractions that come at the end of the day. And next, recommendations regarding teacher professional development. Currently, teachers have not had an RTI training since the beginning of the year. According to Just-in-Time Pedagogy, Kathleen Wilcox and her colleagues explain that ensuring instruction implies teacher expertise. Expertise involves increasing communication and professional development opportunities for teachers to become familiar with RTI initiatives, share the specific instruction framework, rational practices for their setting, gain knowledge of the various forms and administration of literacy assessments, and diagnose, design, and apply instructional interventions. All of these professional development possibilities enhance the likelihood of teacher expertise, compliance, quality reading instruction, and student achievement. So again, professional development would allow teachers to gain more expertise in RTI, and which will allow them to be more effective in their job. My next recommendation involves assessment. Currently, teachers are not keeping RTI-specific data. They're testing for pre-testing, but there is no post-test. So there isn't a consistent procedure for teachers to input data, and they're not using the assessment data to move students through the tiers, even when students sustain growth for downward mobility. According to Freeman and O'Connor, in the article District-Level Considerations in Supporting and Sustaining RTI Implementation, District-Level Considerations in Supporting and Sustaining RTI Implementation, they discuss that districts demonstrating successful RTI processes have recognized the need for coordination of assessment procedures, data management and staff development in basic measurement concepts, interpretation of data, and data-based decision-making. To address these needs requires that one or more individuals be given the responsibility for coordinating and carrying out these activities. So my recommendation is that the RTI teams keep data and share the data documents on Google Drive, so to make data input a lot easier, because the Springport will be moving to a Gmail account, so that all of the teachers will already be using Google Drive and be familiar with how to use it. As I said, data is really critical to effective RTI implementation, and that would, by having one place where teachers can input the data and having those weekly meetings, that will really help, I think, the students and teachers in their jobs. So the IRA, which is the International Reading Association, has 6 guiding principles for successful RTI. I pulled out 3 of the principles that I felt really connected with my plan. Principle 2 is responsive teaching and differentiation. Teachers need to ensure that they are continuing to differentiate instruction. Currently at Springport, this does not always occur. RTI teaching staff must give post-tests to students, as well to create better data to inform instruction. As I stated earlier, they aren't giving post-tests, and that's a critical stopgap for students in order to move forward in instruction. Principle 3 talks about assessment. Currently, teachers do not post-test their students or use data to lesson plan, as I mentioned earlier. Principle 4 is collaboration. Teachers must be able to collaborate effectively to be the most effective. Meetings should be held and norms established. And teachers do need to have time during the day to collaborate, which is something I need to discuss with our principal. So my plans to share data with school personnel, roles and responsibilities. I plan to present my findings at our April staff meeting. I will be discussing my recommendations with our principal later this month and clarify what her role is within our RTI meeting. There is confusion, and her expectations for staff regarding RTI data. Part of the reason that our data has not been kept is because they haven't been held accountable to that. And so I'd like to discuss the importance of keeping data and just kind of clarify her position, how she wants data to be presented, etc. My plans to share data with school personnel, assessment, and accountability. I will involve our principal in a meeting later this month to create a plan for accountability for the RTI teaching staff. Assessment data, I wanted to discuss with her the possibility of having assessment data be submitted bi-weekly to the principal, which with progress reports on each tier group to be submitted monthly. That will allow her to have some data in order to inform her superintendent how the RTI program is going, and hopefully be able to expand that into literacy. I would also say that assessments that may contain an RTI action plan for any of the ratings for each group that do not improve from month to month. And I think that's an important part of accountability for the teaching staff, just to continue to keep their instruction going. And I will also discuss attitudinal barriers that the staff may have to increase accountability. Right now, because they don't have to do any extra work in order to keep the assessment data in one place and review the data, by talking to the principal and in order to implement that RTI plan, I think that we're going to have some teachers that are unhappy with that choice. They don't like the extra work that may entail in the structure because they haven't had to do it. So that's something that we'll have to talk about, how to couch this in a positive way, because it does help students, and that's our whole goal with RTI. So thank you very much for listening to my presentation. If you are interested in learning more about the articles that I used, my resource page is right here. I do appreciate your time, and have a wonderful day.